Hey guys, Brian Stevens. I have Carmi Sanchez. She's a longtime realtor out of Auburn, California, and has one of the craziest stories you're going to hear, not just this year in crazy real estate news, but maybe ever. This is nutty, and as Carmi and I both spoke about, nobody's talking about this. So we know how you're doing, Carmi. Under the circumstance, it's a little crazy, correct?
It is crazy right now. Things are nutty and out of control.
So for those of you who don't know, Auburn and the area that Carmi works is in the foothills of California. It's oftentimes associated with a lot of the fires that you've heard out here in California. Not everywhere, but that's kind of the idea. And as a result, insurance companies have taken drastic measures in these areas, and it's expanding. It's also worth pointing out that it's not only in real estate and lending where insurance is being affected. It's automotive, it's life, it's all forms of insurance. But for our purposes, we're going to talk about insurance as it pertains to real estate, and you're not going to believe what you're about to hear. So Carmi, why don't you tell me what you've been going through over the past few months and what we fear is going to happen in the very near future?
Yeah, first off, I'm in Arnold, California, and we've been dealing with California Fair mainly as our main insurance provider for about 6 years. So this isn't something that's new. Because we're in the Stanislaus Forest and we're a wildland fire area and high fire severity zone, a lot of the normal providers has pulled out of our area, long ago, 6 years ago. I think we've been dealing with California Fair.
Well, for those of you who don't know, California Fair is going to be your insurance of last resort when all the other private insurers have pulled out of a market, correct?
Correct. So as of November 1st, California Fair got a new software system. And so what's happened, and nobody knew, I'm sure the insurance people knew that it was going to happen. I don't know that anybody anticipated what the rippling effect of this new software system was going to be. But what's happening is that our escrows are being held up because they can't get these quotes turned out. So what would normally take about 5 days to get an insurance quote is now sometimes taking 30, 45. We don't even know how long it's going to take on some of these. I personally have one that has been 38 days and we're not getting any answers.
And any answers with it, you're not getting an insurance. You're not getting insurance for your property, so you can't close on your loan or close on your real estate.
Correct. So our buyers and sellers are being held in this state of limbo until we can deal with the insurance. They've already done all their inspections. They've paid for their appraiser to come out and appraise the property. They have, done everything. Their lenders have done everything, and we just cannot get insurance placed.
Docs are signed, everything's done.
Well, we can't get loan docs until the insurance is in place.
Okay.
So docs are not in.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Why don't you just go get a private insurer like everybody else everywhere in the country does right now?
Because there's none available.
Real quickly, there are no insurance companies that are writing insurance where you live right now. No private insurance companies.
There are very few that do write private policies, but let me tell you, they have restrictions that we can't always meet these hurdles, like you can't have a propane tank. We're in an area where we don't have natural gas that's piped in. We have bottled gas. So if you can get somebody to do it, they have, or you can't have trees or, it's beyond just the 100-foot clearance that we require, so
okay.
It's problematic.
I want people to understand this. So you live in the foothills to the mountains and you can't have trees.
Correct.
I want just wrap your mind around this. You guys have to understand, for those of you who aren't in California, this is basically every property. So as a result, then what you're doing, you're going over to California Fair, the insurance of last resort, as a result of the policies that California put in place. And I understand that you were trying to deal with one of your escrows and you got stuck on the phone for some time, along with some of your insurance brokered partners out there. Can you talk about that?
Oh yeah, my poor insurance agents. We have several very knowledgeable insurance agents, and they have been just grinding on the phone for 7 or 8 hours trying to get through. A lot of them have been locked out of the system. So they, as of November 1st, they went in to get their policies and put their policies in, and they're locked out of the system. Well, there's nobody answering the phones. And then when they do finally get to somebody, it's somebody, that's customer service. It's the first tier. That those poor people are just being screamed at daily. I'm sure, they're sitting in their living room. They don't have a supervisor there. And, it's just problematic. I tried, because I have a buyer and seller that on one particular deal that's been in there for a long time, 38 days, I have I've been trying to work through it. So I've called the commissioner of insurance, and they say, well, you can have your customers file a complaint. And I said, well, how can you guys hold all of these escrows up, because it's not just me. I mean, I talked to my title reps, and they've got anywhere in between 7 and 10 escrows this month that are not closing. They're having to talk to their supervisors because they basically they were like, why aren't we closing escrows? Well, they can't close escrows because there's no insurance. So it's got several industries just bottlenecked, and people are just having to stay put. There's nothing that we can do about it. So I called the commissioner's office, and they told me, well, we're watching it, which I don't know what they're watching.
What does that even mean?
I know. I mean, you're watching the real estate industry implode. You're watching buyers and sellers being stuck and not being able to move. I mean, this affects housing. So on a buyer's side, if they weren't prepared for it, which nobody was prepared for, because nobody said that this was going to happen. So the buyers are having to pay to, keep their interest rate locked. They're having to redo their moving companies. A lot of times when a buyer's buying in an area, it's a little different for us because we have a lot of second homes. But if they're moving, then they have to be somewhere. They have a job to go to. And so this is throughout the state of California.
The ripple effect is catastrophic.
Right. And it's coming all to California. I mean, right now it's affecting a lot of rural areas where this is our only option. But the way the insurance companies are going and pulling out of California, it's California wide. I mean, go ahead.
It is. But I also want to let you know, and for those of you out there, this is happening in the state of Washington. I've had this conversation up there. This is happening in Idaho. This is happening in Colorado. This is happening in Oregon. This is happening in any area where it's happening in Arizona if you head up towards Flag. This is happening in a lot of areas across the country. So I really want people to understand this now. So you going forward today, and you have buyers and sellers, you're going into this knowing that you don't have any path to close the transaction if there's a mortgage involved, correct?
Correct. And most cash buyers, especially if they're savvy, are not going to want to close something without insurance either. They just because you can buy it cash doesn't mean that you don't want your investment insured. One of my insurance brokers that I deal with regularly, he told me that he is anticipating 50 to 70% of the escrows are affected by this.
Okay, I want to switch gears here, because this is also happening on the East Coast with flood and hurricane, and it's even starting to affect the Midwest with the tornado alley. Okay, but let's just switch gears here. I think you said on your house. Did they come to your house, or was it somebody you know where?
Oh, it's my house. I've been on my property for 18 years, and we've had an insurance company, one of the larger insurance companies that have insured us all of that time. We've never had a claim. And this year we got a cancellation notice. And, of course, those cancellation notices come right at the last minute. So that's going to affect this for some folks too. And, I did try to get a regular insurance company, and it was $14,000 for a policy. And we just didn't feel that we could do that in our budget. So we had to go California Fair. And they have requirements that you have to have certain, you're sending somebody out to inspect every property, which is fine, but we did get insurance placement. But, after 18 years of not having a claim, we're out, regular insurance.
So I need everyone to understand this as well. Not only are they not writing policies, so you can't close on any transactions right now. And this is all the foothills. By the way, this isn't one small community in California. This is all over the place. But what they're also doing is they're pulling out and they're canceling their existing policies. In short, these insurance companies want nothing to do, particularly with the state of California and these what would be deemed to be fire-prone areas. I will say this though. It's not just, I think, fire-prone areas, because it's starting to hit like where I live, and we're pushed up against the hills, but we're certainly not in the hills. You know what I mean? So we're subdivisions that are beyond that. So I don't think that we should be deemed the same yet. These type of policies are starting to affect larger areas of California, but they're pulling out as well. So if you didn't have the insurance policy that you got, which is, I guess, a little bit more intrusive, I'm assuming more expensive, You would then have to go with forced insurance, which could cost you 2, 3, or 4 times what your existing policies are.
Correct, and that's also on the timeline. What's happening with California Fair is if somebody gets canceled and they continue to operate in the manner that they're operating, and you have 20 days to find insurance and you can't get a quote for 6 to 8 weeks, then you're going to have to get lender imposed insurance. That's the way it works when you have a mortgage.
And you're not getting, by the way, California Fair is not, they're not playing along with this. I mean, basically, if we're looking at this, you're going to end up with forced insurance.
Well, if they can't get their systems to work properly, and one of the largest problems that I see with this, Brian, is that they're not communicating. They're not sending out memos to their insurance brokers. That what they said from the onset when this happened is that we need 10 days, which 10 days is no problem in an escrow or otherwise. But at the end of 10 days, you have to call and get it escalated to underwriting. Well, then all of these weeks keep going by. So if they're not giving anybody any information. You can't get them on the phone. They won't send any emails. I have one insurance broker that's resorted to sending them overnight letters. Just to be creative and try to get his insurance policies, so it's a problem.
So this has changed how you're writing contracts right now, because you can't really have a close date if you can't get insurance, right?
Right. I'm actually putting in on the seller side, I'm putting in that the buyer provided insurance application receipt within 3 days of acceptance. But we're just having to write them longer or extended. I've been on 3 extensions on this one that I've had in there for 38 days. And so the buyers and the sellers are, they're all frustrated. The insurance people are frustrated. The title people are frustrated. And everybody, the insurance guys are just grinding every day trying to get a hold of somebody at California Fair to maybe get 1 or 2 policies out. And some of them don't have any rhyme or reason. So they don't really even know how to answer to anybody, the insurance people, because sometimes they can put a quote in and it's popped out in 10 days. But then there's these other ones that are just in perpetual limbo. And I'm calling my insurance guy every day, and he's, we're laughing at it at this point because he's like, well, I'll talk to you on Monday, Carmi. There's nothing he can do about it. It's not, it isn't something that the insurance people are doing. It's California Fair and their new system. And, there's other glitches with this new system. Many lenders have impounds. That's where you take your taxes and you're paying it with your mortgage. And then at the end of the year, the tax time, the insurance company sends the mortgage company the bill if somebody doesn't know what impounds are, and they pay them. So with this new system, they have a 0 grace period on them. So if the lender happens to not send in the insurance and it gets there on day 30 day 31 instead of day 30, the policy is going to be canceled and there's no reinstatement. So it could affect people that think their insurance is taken care of.
And it's not.
Right. Because then you're back into lender imposed insurance.
Because California Fair, for everyone who doesn't understand, is run by the state of California. And if you know anything about California government, we are one of the most efficient governments in the entire country. Our government runs, we are a Swiss watch out here.
It's problematic. It ripples out way further than just buying and selling homes. Right now, currently, you have at least 4 industries that are being held up. The gear has stopped. Even if we're able to write contracts and do all of the things that we do on a daily basis, we can't get them closed.
You can't get them closed. It's more than 4 industries. I want you to think of inspectors, pest inspectors, whole house inspectors, work that was done, general contractors, roofers. The list goes on and on, how many people this is affecting and how much it's going to slow down the economy in California, because you guys have to understand, this isn't one small community. This is up and down the entire state of California, particularly when you get to Southern California, Los Angeles, where so many of these communities are stuck up in the hills. This is going to have a catastrophic and avoidable effect on California. Now, listen up. All right, so we're not closing any transactions, so listen up. Ready? When is this going to be fixed, Carmi?
There's no answers.
Right.
There's all speculation because there's not been any information given. I've seen one news article on it, and it was out of Butte County, and it was a buyer on the news saying that she was being held up because she couldn't get insurance, and the same type of thing. But, there's speculation. I've had one of my insurance brokers tell me he thinks it could be March, but, they're receiving so many policies.
March.
Yeah, that's
March.
a long time.
Guys,
receiving so many applications.
Applications, not only on new escrows, but on the stuff that's being canceled, that there's just this huge backlog. And I mean, some of the things that I've heard are, it's the new system that, it'll be 10 days, which it's not. Clearly it's not.
you're a month into it.
Right. And over a month, that it's, that they don't have enough employees. The insurance commissioner told me, "Oh, we're watching it." I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But they have not come out with any statement at all that I could find, and I've been all over it trying to find it, mainly because I'm curious, like, how can this go on? And the state of California that's running this program, I mean, they basically have a monopoly on the insurance industry, probably not by choice, but that's what it is at this point. And they don't have any accountability to it. They don't have to give you any time frames. They don't have to,
Listen, Carmen, you're right, but you're talking about like shutting down all real estate for 25% of California for the first quarter of 2024. They're shutting it down. That's effectively the conversation we're having. And to your point, nobody is talking about this. This is a huge issue, and it's a growing issue.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, I would have thought that if they had a new system that was rolling out, that they would have tested it to make sure that it works. I mean, I'm a business owner. I've changed systems many times. I always keep my old system in place until I make sure that the bugs of the new one are worked out, because usually there's some bugs. But this is a pretty big bug.
Carmi, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Nice to see you, Brian.
Nice to see you.